With the political climate of today, what is your perspective on the state of Nigeria's democracy? Are there signs of progress or regression? What's your take?
Let's look at, let's start this conversation, broadly speaking, on the state of the nation by looking at the mindset of the president and his team. New Year Day, there was a message to Nigerians. Before then, there was a media chat. Before then, there was tax bills sent to the National Assembly.
Yes.
And then further back, 2023, there was subsidy is gone, and gone for good.
Yes.
Each one of these will constitute elements of a process. Both the subsidy is gone on inauguration day, both the submission of the tax reform bills, both the context and the content of the media chart, and then equally the New Year message, produces a graphic picture about the president, the presidential team, his focus both on the economy, on policies, on politics, and democracy. What is that is very clear for Nigerians to understand is simple. There is a creeping new messianic streak you find that is resistant to conversation and dialogue and respect of diversities. And this new messianism is folded around or wrapped around what one can call incrustations of false divinity. You know, divinity is like when you are like a god. You do no wrong.
Yes.
But God himself is humble to the degree that he listens to mortals. When the National Economic Council, forget the northern governors and northern political leaders, said, headed by his vice president, a constitutionally prescribed body with a mandate to advise the executive branch led by the president, pulled back the tax reform bills away from the National Assembly for broader consultations. The vice president, not of PDP, but of APC, 36 governors of all the subnationals, central bank governor, etc., etc. What did the president and his team say? Forget it, we're not going to pull it back. It stays where it is, with the National Assembly that has vowed to do all his bidding, whether they are glorious or inglorious. 2, during the media chart, which I'm sure you guys participated in, you find that tone of condescension, of paternalism, of handing down, of arrogance that is almost insufferable to say, we know it all. There's no space for you to penetrate to give advice. It's the context of that the governor of Bauchi State, for example, the chairman of the PDP Governors Forum, spoke up on Christmas Day and again on channels. One of the programs said, no, Mr. President, if the economic policies are not working well for the people, for those of us at the subnational, it's our duty as those who hold the baton there to speak up. Speak up, not undermine you, but to give you some tough words based on tough love.
Right.
What to do.
So you already assessed the leadership. I want to understand what the issue here is for you regarding the tax bill. Is it that there wasn't enough consultation, or it's that there are certain things that need to be moved around the tax bill? I mean, there will be discussion.
Democracy
yes.
is conversation.
Yeah.
Democracy is contestation of ideas.
So we're going to have that because...
you don't put the cart before the horse.
Right.
If you have a policy as monumental and as deep-rooted as the tax bills that will reform the entire tax administration system that have been maybe cast in iron for 20, 30, 40, 50 or more years, what you do is that you tease out the broad strokes or the framework of what you want to do and engage critical stakeholders. Even if you did some minimal level of conversations, the northern governors gave you a clue on what to do. They met in Kaduna with all the traditional rulers and said, we're not going to back this, pull it back. You have a vice president who's from the north. It is duty to shepherd that environment, to have gone there, to say, this is what the government means by this. What the president and our team means by it. They didn't do it.
So you don't think this has anything to do with regional sentiment?
No,
it's
because
that.
Beyond that, they brought it back to the neck.
Right.
The Economic Council headed by the VP of the 36 governors who sat and said, after hours, we find a lot of problems here. There could be promises and possibilities, but a lot of problems here. Pull back these bills so we don't get embarrassed somewhere down the line. The reps and the senators come from states, from constituencies. They represent their people. You may have taken control of Akpabio and his leadership, and Abbas and leadership, but not the bulk of those members there. What did the president say? No, they will stay. These bills stay there. You don't put them away.
Yeah, because
then if you look at even the conversation during the media chat, every statement for the media guys who enter is to put down. No, I'm excellent, performing very well. Abadi asked that question and said, the people is the one to judge, not you. Now, the sense of that judgment already rendered as excellent is that sense of new messianism. When people speak, Labour has come out now to say, we are opposed to this. The governor of Bauchi didn't say, I'm even opposed to it. He said, we in the north are worried. Those in the east are even worried. Those in the south are worried. We have some elements there we could work with, but broadly speaking, you need to converse with the people. Climb down from a high horse. When you get it wrong, eat a humble pie,
right,
and then engage with the people. It's very important in a democracy. And before you go on, as pointed by Governor Bala Mohammed, Bola Tinubu was part of a struggle for democracy. I was part of that struggle. He suffered exile, suffered detentions. When he became governor, he put Obasanjo on the spot. He resisted his government. He opposed him. He went to court against him. When he left office, he persisted in his confrontational stance, sometimes for good cause, against Yaradua, against Jonathan. He led marches. Even during this last election, remember that Buhari was of APC. He gave his state broadcast and said, the reform of the Naira has come to stay. It was judiciously done. One governor from the north, supporting the current president now, gave a counter directive in Kaduna and went to court against a city president of his own party. The heavens didn't fall. So why with noisy aides of the president hold to task a governor who loves his people, who is actually advising the president to sit up and listen to them because those toxic policies are not working for the people?
So what you're trying to unpack is a sort of a cult personality. I mean, we'll probably had something similar during President Muhammad Buhari, who also had a messianic, figure or personality that a lot of people thought he could do no wrong. So now we are here today. Which way forward?
It is growing in depth and range. Buhari was laid back. That means this country could flow in any direction it wanted. That means the possibilities for intervention were there. This presidential team, they are not laid back. A governor speaks and aids pour out. Labour leaders speak aids, we pour out, invade media spaces, use the bully pulpit of the presidency to put them down. What they're doing is to do what? They destroy the guardrails of democratic governance built on 4 planks. The first plank is the media, which is constitutionalized, free speech, and media freedom and human rights built there. 2, political parties under severe stress, PDP and Labour Party and so on, in order to collapse the infrastructure of the multi-party democratic system. 3, weaponize the justice system. Look at the way the small boys were brought out for us to see. Some collapse in the court over protests against hunger. And most crucially, you find that in the loss of civic space. Look at the fountain where they bring back the girls. It's shut down and gated. So you find that the creeping sense of new messianism or false divinity is already unleashed. And if we do not, as Democrats, put our feet down and say, we don't want the president to fail. That would be the country failing. But at the same time, we don't want to create a leader who will not listen to the people.
In your opinion, are there enough enlightened minds today in Nigeria that are willing to stake all to rescue the country?
The essence of media conversation is to build quietly and slowly, but resolutely, a core of democracy-loving Nigerians who are going to put out their neck and say, for the sake of democracy and human liberty, look at the state of the economy. When I look at the presidential New Year message, I marvel at the sense of disconnect. That disconnect is almost absolute. In this regard, for example, in one of the statements that Mr. President said, apart from a few tiny individuals who are seduced by regional, faith, or ethnic or religious sentiment, the rest of the country are in harmony and in endorsement of his own programs and policies have been given mandate. Not Mr. President. It's only a few individuals who have phantom-themed, all day and all night white party. People have opulent boat regattas. Those who live in Tower Bay and the Core Atlantic and Lekki. Those who fly over the rest of Lagos.
Right.
That's tiny band of the people who seem to appreciate the way and manner, the toxic nature of these policies you have unleashed. Have damaged and demeaned and humanized Nigerians in the millions across board. If you look at that statement again, he said, the Naira has appreciated from maybe 1,700 Naira to 1,650. The petroleum products are falling, maybe from 1,030 Naira to 1,010 Naira or 900 something Naira. When you make it at 150, when one of your aides told the governor, we give you more money, I was answered. I don't know whether the governor answered that. Okay. Said, I wanted more money under Buhari than the big money you give me because the money meant more than the one you're giving me today. 30 billion of 2 years ago is possibly worth 300 billion of today. In
civilized, advanced societies, people talk about enlightened self-interest. They talk about elite consensus. They talk about custodians of a society. Where is our own elite consensus? Where are our own custodians?
Elite consensus is built as a product of democratic power, which is given to a set of individuals at every historic time.
Do we even have those individuals?
Of course they are there. In 1999, Obasanjo received power democratically and said, we need to beat a level of elite consensus to build national consensus. We need to bring the other two parties, AD and APP together and include them in governance. We need to converse so that we can build. The first attempt to reform the constitution in 1999 was a multi-party attempt Obasanjo set up before the 2005 grand design that collapsed with the third-term agenda. Jonathan did the same with the national dialogue or national constitutional conference, and even with the short term he had, either with amnesty and the post-amnesty framework, and then the reform of the electoral process. What do we need at every point in time, this president president is lacking. I said it in this studio and several studios. He wants to transcend the political state or the political class. He wants to diminish the ability of political players to weigh in the conversation of governance. And so he wants to speak directly to the people. But unfortunately, the policies here unleashed on the people are toxic policies that not only improving their lives, but rather diminishing their humanity. So he can still recover if he wants to recover, but he wants to remain in the sky, the high horse, rather than climbing down there and listening to the subnationals, to the governors, to the people at the local grassroots. Then it is quite possible that this country could begin to pick up the pieces of where we are today.
So let's look at his economic outlook and plans. How feasible? Because this touches on everything that you have been speaking to.
I look at the New Year message is not actually deep in terms of policy, just a lot of wishes and suppositions and aspirations and so on. But a lot of things there come out about the mindset of the president and his team. It looked more like something written by or for the World Bank, almost as if the fundamentals are good, the robust tenor of the macroeconomic system and foundation, the stock market is roaring back into life and heavily there. That doesn't put food on people's table. That doesn't shrink inflation. That doesn't make people who are trekking having abandoned their cars at home. That doesn't make insecurity to have vanished overnight. Rather, it is creeping across the country from the northeast to the northwest, from Boko Haram to Lakarawa and so on and so forth. So, wishes are horses, okay? If they are horses, beggars will ride. Mr. President will have a slate of wishes and aspirations for the new year, but unless he changes course dramatically and the method of governance, and then unless he reins in his noisy aides, who will at every drop of heart, pick on people, who represent tendencies, represent interests, represent geographies and demographies, there's absolutely no way he can require his presidency. I said here, in one show, he's lost the presidential plot and lost the nation in that regard.
And what does that mean for us? It
is frightening, and even more frightening for me, because sometimes we say that domestic policies reinforce foreign policies. Foreign policies get their bearing for domestic policies. If you look at one segment of the policy framework based on this sphere you and I are talking about, the Sahelian region, Nigeria and Niger.
Niger, yes. We'll have that tussle with Niger.
What Senegal is saying, this year is the last time France will have a single soldier in Senegal. Cote d'Ivoire, the same thing. Chad, the same thing. Mali, the same thing. Burkina Faso, the same thing. Nigeria, that is bound in history and blood and culture with Nigeria, the same thing. So you have lost your near neighbors. You see ECOWAS implode under your watch. Something as a gift, as an inheritance from our ancestors. One is still living for 50 years. It imploded. And then people who have pushed France off their back, neo-colonial and imperial France off their back, you're embracing them. So I'm
going to ask
that is calamitous for national security.
So I'm going to ask you, so you do have problem with this new romance with France, between France and Nigeria?
It is not even that I have the problem with it.
Yes.
One of the ambassadors on a show on another station, someone said, you can change your trade partners, you can change your neighbors. It is geography. Mohammed Haiked, one great Egyptian guy, said the destiny of any nation is a factor, a product, a consequence of geography and demography. Northern Nigeria and the Niger Republic, including the former president, Buhari, has roots in Niger Republic. They're bound in blood and culture and tradition and history. And because they've said no to France, you have to say no to France. If you don't say no to France, and Mali has said no to France, Chad has said no to France, Senegal has said no to France, it's either the most tomfoolery level, the blind foreign policy that is incoherent and decomposing, or somebody's playing a funny game with Northern Nigeria. There's no way you can defend it. That's why Ukraine is up in smoke with Russia. It's near neighbor. They're worried about whether they will go to NATO or EU. That's why Cuba is suffering for 60-something years over nothing, just because they are 90 miles on the coast of Florida.
So you're essentially saying Africa first before the West? Absolutely.
Nigerian foreign policy has been Afrocentric. From the 60s, it's actually the fire and spirit of decolonization. How then do we get the colonial powers off? In the 70s was the emergence of ECOWAS, regional integration, regional cooperation. Even from the Basajo and Murtala Mohammed side, it is a forceful Afrocentric radical philosophy, pushing back Western hegemony. Babangida, through the help of Professor Bola Tinubu, evolved a concept of medium powers. Nigeria is a medium power. We can allow the big powers of those days, the Soviet Union and the USA and the Western imperial world, to dominate us. I'm coming. So they did that with ECOMOG. Obasanjo did with AU, peer review mechanism, NEPAD, an African peace and security architecture. But when it started the unraveling of Nigerian foreign policy, under President Bola Tinubu's watch, ECOWAS has imploded for the first time in history. And then your neighbors in the Sahel are telling you, back off France, and you have France in a beer hug. That is the condition for national security breakdown.
So why do you think the president is threading this path?
I don't stay in the villa with him. I don't advise him. People like us are talking because, like the governor of Bauchi State said, People should raise their voices, because if the Mr. President is not listening, and those around him don't want to listen, every one of us will suffer in the rest of the country. So I hope this programs like this, will make them listen to say, it's a dangerous gamble with northern Nigeria and Mali, and Nigeria particularly. It's a dangerous gamble with France. Whether you cast it as economic relationship, you cast the economic relationship from political, military, and strategic relationship.
Finally, what is your view about his foreign minister? Because, you know, the foreign minister, the minister of state...
I don't know much about foreign minister, but the point I had, I mean, those who are in the foreign policy environment or domain, they believe that the foreign ministry derives most of its imperatives and purposes from what you see from the presidential power play, how the power flows down from the presidency. Even though it is a strong foreign policy ministry, it will help to galvanize presidential foreign policy to say, this is what we think will work best for Nigeria. Apparently, between the presidency and the foreign ministry, there's a collapse of coherence. That collapse of coherence means Nigerian foreign policy is an inchoate state. That means it is not come together to build a strategic whole, what they call grand strategy. What the grand strategy with engagement with France? We don't know. What the grand strategy of seems to push back on Nigeria Republic that has 1,500 or more kilometers with Nigeria, from Ilela to Ghana to other places and so on. What the grand strategy to watch your neighbors flee from France and embracing France? This is the moment in which, for me, a very decaying or decadent foreign policy or doctrine has to be revamped. And if you do that, if you don't do that quickly, just like the local scene we have here, this country is going to be in a very messy state for a long time to come.
Professor Udenta.
I always like listening to this Professor Udenta. When he speaks, he get volume. You know what he do. I always like listening to him. That's why whenever I see his video like this, I always want to do his video. It makes sense every time he speaks. You understand? So now you heard everything he said. You heard everything he said. That is it. So these are people, when they speak, they will assess, evaluate the president's performance. If they tell you the president is doing well, you take it. You know that, okay, Tinubu is doing well, but now he's not doing well, but he's putting the right policies in place. He's doing the right thing, that this right thing is going to make life easier for Nigerians at the end of the tunnel. But now, as it is now, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. So there's nothing, no good thing this man now is pointing out that this Tinubu has done, rather than problem here and there. It's creating problem here and there, here and there. He evaluates the president's speech, the presidential chat, that the New Year message, that one, okay, it doesn't carry any weight. It's just a wishing message, New Year message, all those things. You understand? So if this one is telling you now that Nigerians should be patient, listen, if he's telling you Nigerians should be patient for this government, that this government is doing well, is on the right track, we should be patient, wait for him to do what he's doing. This policy is only going to take time, but he's doing the right thing. Let's just wait for him, for these or those policies to manifest. We know, okay, but hey, they are not nobody. But you will say, because it's an opposition can speak like that. If opposition do not tell you the truth, are you expecting the current administration to tell you the truth? Meanwhile, there is no truth in their mouth. They are not truthful. Is that what you want? So when these people speak, it's true opposition. You will know the state of the country, if the country is doing well or the country is not doing well. No, they don't listen to APC to use what APC told you to justify Tinubu's administration. No, it's zero. After all, Tinubu himself, imagine himself, he's calling himself 100, is passing himself, giving himself pass mark 100 over 100. Say if you went to university, they give you opportunity to score yourself in all your papers. Are you going to score yourself low? You will come out with the distinction. So it's what Tinubu is doing. These opposition parties, when they speak to you, you know the state of the country, that the country is bad, the country is not moving forward, the country is going backwards. Now when APC speak, those people, they are not truthful. Anyways, please share this video now. I'll be your guy now. Subscribe to this YouTube channel now. Guy, you not just to watch, subscribe, hit the notification button so that YouTube will recommend the videos to you next time. Please.